Hey everyone, Michael O'Brien here with another Advice for Magicians video. I'm chilling here with my beautiful Christmas tree that my wife got ahead and decorated, and it looks all cute and beautiful and pretty and stuff, so I decided to go ahead and use it as my background for this video. But more importantly, I'm super lazy and I didn't want to set up the backdrop, so this is a perfect excuse not to set up the backdrop. Yay, Christmas! All right, everyone. So as always, Michael O'Brien here. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If this is your first time on my channel and my first video that you watch, welcome to the channel. Go ahead, click the subscribe button, like, share, comment, blah, 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 ring the little notification bell, all the stuff that you guys already know. And if you are watching another one of my videos, welcome back. Thank you guys so much for watching my channel. It really means a lot that you guys choose O'Brien Magic to come for all of your daily dose of magic tips, tricks, reviews, performances, blah, 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 blah. So in this video, I wanted to talk about specifically, this is something I've touched on in a couple other videos, but how to create a performance. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take little bits from all of the videos that I did in the past. Like I said, I've probably covered this topic in like 2 or 3 different videos all spread out, and I'm gonna condense them in this video. But I suggest you guys go through my playlist and watch videos like how to build a script, how to build an act, how to theme your magic, like those kinds of videos in the Advice for Magicians playlist. Go back and watch some of those videos because they will go more in detail than I do in this one. But there's a difference between putting together a routine and putting together a performance. The routine itself, which includes the performance, is usually like an ambitious card, for example. The card goes into the deck, it pops up to the top of the deck multiple times under increasingly more impossible conditions, and that's the routine. That's what the trick is. The performance can be anything. It could be the story, it could be the items, the props that you use. Maybe you're doing like this nostalgic kind of thing. So like you're talking about, you used to play Magic the Gathering, the card game when you grew up. So maybe you're doing the ambitious card routine with a Magic the Gathering deck of cards. And maybe the Black Lotus is like the super rare card. Like everyone, even people that don't play Magic, know that the Black Lotus is like the rare card in the game. So maybe the Black Lotus comes up to the top over and over and over again under more impossible conditions. So like that would be the performance, not just the card coming up to the top, but using the Magic the Gathering cards, telling this nostalgic story about how you used to play the game all the time when you were younger, or maybe you still do play the game, and talking about how rare this card was, and that the card, right at that minute when you need that card, it pops right up to the top of the deck, or whatever. So I'll give you guys a couple of examples of how to create a performance that means something for you and relates to your audience. Now, these suggestions are how I do it. I recommend watching other channels and we'll talk about how they do it. That way you guys can kind of get some examples from a bunch of different sources. But what I tend to do is I tend to think of things that are either in the pop culture at the moment or things that I enjoy from my own personal life outside of Magic, and then I inject those things into my performance. So recently I did a Magic lesson with one of my students, and he had this very question for me. How do I make my performances more than just a trick? Like, how do I actually connect with the audience? And the best way to connect with the audience is to give them a reason to care about what it is that you are performing for them. So here's an example. Let's just say the trick is a prediction effect where you have the spectator name any number, and then you deal that number of cards down, and whatever card they land on, you have an envelope sitting off to the side. You open the envelope, and inside the envelope it says you will stop at the 7 of hearts, and then you turn over the card that they stopped at, and it's the 7 of hearts, and then you can show all the cards are different, blah, 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 right? So let's just say that is the actual effect that you want to achieve. So there's a ton of different ways you can do it. The most boring way, which is the routine, would be to just, hey, so here I have a deck of cards, right? And I made a prediction. I'm going to go ahead and set this prediction down on the table. I'll show you all the cards are different, right? And go ahead, do me a favor, name any number between 1 and 52. They say 28. So you count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 28. 28 cards. And you say, go ahead and open that prediction. They open the envelope. And inside the envelope, it says you will choose the 7 of hearts. And then you turn over the card and it's the 7 of hearts. And whoa, wasn't that cool? And it's a good trick because, you know, it's super clean and super fun. But that's kind of it. It kind of ends there, and that's the trick, right? So how can you make this into a performance? So the example that I gave in the magic lesson when he asked this question was, if it was me, I would inject something into it that I really enjoy. Let's just say, we're gonna make something up now. Let's just say Warhammer was the thing that I'm like super into right now. For those of you who don't know, Warhammer is, it's a game, right? Like kind of like a board game, but there's actually like these little character figures that you would collect. And part of the fun of the game is that you collect the figures colorless and then you paint them and you decorate them up and make them look however you want. So it's half arts and crafts, half game, and then like you make them like fight each other and stuff. So kind of like a role-playing game, right? So what you would do is you would bring out some of these little figures and you would say, you know, I play this game. I've been playing this game since I was younger. Here's some of the figures that I decorated. It's called Warhammer. This is what the game is about, right? And then you would take out a deck of cards and you'd say, I want to try something kind of interesting now. And the cards could be like Warhammer trading cards or playing cards or whatever, right? And you say, here, I actually have these dice. These are 6-sided, or I'm sorry, 20-sided dice. Have you ever seen a 20-sided dice before? And a lot of times people will say no, unless they've played like Dungeons and Dragons or something. Usually they've never seen a 20-sided die before or even know that it's a thing. So you'll say it's like a regular dice, except, you know, it's got 20 sides instead of the traditional 6. Go ahead, have a look, check them out. We use these dice when we play the game. You roll them to give the characters stats and upgrades and when they fight against each other and all this stuff. And you can just kind of explain like how the game works. And then you say, I want to try something though. Go ahead and roll those 2 dice for me. So they roll the 2 20-sided dice and they get a number. And you can say, are you happy with that roll? Are you happy with that number? You can roll again if you want. Keep it completely fair. They're happy with that number. So again, let's just say you rolled the number 28. Well, you deal down 28 cards and then you turn the last card over and it is the 7 of hearts, right? You then go on to say, you know, like it's really interesting that the 7 of hearts was the card that you landed on. You could have landed on this card, this card, this card, they're all different. But you landed on the 7 of hearts. Go ahead and turn over those Warhammer figurines for me. And then they turn them over and then on the bottom of all of their feet, you painted 7 of hearts, 7 of hearts, 7 of hearts on all of them, right? So that could be like a really cool trick, a really cool reveal. And it's the same exact, you know, routine. The routine is the same. The performance is what stands out. The performance is what makes it different. For me, for the longest time, I was doing a card to pocket routine and it was a pretty standard card to pocket routine. All right, so we're gonna put your card in the middle of the deck now and then the card, you know, go ahead and check my pocket, make sure it's empty because in just a minute, the card's gonna jump into my pocket. And there it is. Wasn't that cool? Watch, I'll show you how it got to my pocket in slow motion. And I do the slow motion gag where I sneak it into my pocket and I'm just kidding. That's not really how it goes because it does really go into the middle of the deck and then it jumps into the pocket and then I reach into my pocket, I produce the card again and I go, you probably want to see that one more time. And this time I'll even let you reach into my pocket. Go ahead and reach in and take it out. They take out the wrong card and oh, what do you know? The entire deck is now in my pocket except for this one card, which is yours. And then I go to hand them the card and then it wasn't the right card. And so I go, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot I actually have a lucky card that I keep with me. And then I pull out my wallet and I open up the wallet and I pull out their card out of my wallet. And then I give them the card. And that was the ambitious card routine or the card to pocket routine, excuse me. That's what I auditioned with at the Magic Castle years ago when I wanted to become a junior member. That and I did Shutagawa's Ninja Ring routine and they loved it, and that's how I got into the Magic Castle as a junior back in 2009, I believe, 2008 or 2009. And I had been performing that routine that way for I don't know how long, like a really long time. And then one day I was just like, I really like performing this routine, and I was performing it when I did my children's magic shows. And the way that I made it interesting was I had them choose a card, and then I had them write either their name on the card or their favorite superhero or whatever, draw a smiley face, whatever they wanted to put on the card, and then that's what I would tell them to look for whenever the card appeared. I would say, look for the card with your superhero name on it or something like that, right? But I was like, there's got to be more that I can do with it. So what is something that the kids can relate to that would make this a trick more exciting for them? I don't have to change the handling, I don't have to change the method, I don't have to change anything other than the performance. How do I make this performance connect to the kids in my audience? So all I did was I said, well, you know, children like Pokemon, so why don't I do this trick with Pokemon cards? And Pokemon means pocket monsters. It's like short for pocket monsters. So the card going to my pocket makes perfect sense. But the card going to my wallet doesn't make any sense. So what can I do as the finale? Oh, the card ends up inside of a Pokeball. Done. Right? So all I did was I just took this same routine that I was already performing and I added a Pokemon theme to it. Instead of using a regular deck of cards, I used Pokemon cards. And instead of using my wallet, I used the Pokeball. I didn't have to change anything. I added a couple of little lines in there, right? And this kind of goes back to scripting. When you're scripting your routine, again, go watch that script building video. It teaches you guys how to script out your routine and stuff. I just thought to myself, what are some lines that could go with this theme? So first and foremost, the connection of pocket monsters and the card going in my pocket needed to be addressed. So the way that I did that was as follows. Does anyone know why they're called Pokemon? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's because it means pocket monsters. Now right now, there are no monsters in my pocket. In fact, you can check. Or is it empty? Very good, because in just a minute, that pocket monster is gonna run right into my pocket, just like this. So the trick was the same, the effect was the same, nothing changed there. The card vanished from the deck and appeared in my pocket. But I changed the pattern just to talk about, you know, like what Pokemon was, what pocket monsters, or what Pokemon stood for, like what it meant, pocket monsters. And then I do the bit, instead of, you know, I'm going to take the card from the deck to slow motion in my pocket and doing like the slow motion thing. Instead, I said, I'm going to show you how the Pokemon runs out of the deck, around my shoulders, and in the pocket in slow motion. You guys want to see? They say, yeah. And then, like slow motion, just like hopping around on my body until it gets into the pocket, right? And the kids laugh. And then you get to that moment where it's like all the cards jump to the pocket, right? And so Pokemon's like slogan or catchphrase or whatever you want to say is gotta catch them all, right? So of course, go ahead and reach in my pocket and take out your Pokemon. They reach in and it's the wrong Pokemon and they go, it's the wrong one, and everyone gets like all excited. Ah, you messed up, Mr. Magician. And I go, hold on, let me see. No, it's not that one. Not that one. Any of these? No. Got to catch them all, right? And I just throw that in there, got to catch them all, right? As I'm taking the cards out of my pocket, I go, look, that's the whole deck. Yours is the only Pokemon that didn't go to my pocket that time, right? And then I'll say, you want to know why that is? Because even though Pokemon stands for pocket monsters, Pokemon actually don't like staying in your pocket. Where do you guys think they like to stay? And everyone will be like, in the Pokeball, because the Pokeball's been sitting right there in plain view like the whole time. Mine has a little clip on it, so I usually clip it to like my coat pocket. If I don't want to do that, I'll just set it down on the table. And then I take the ball and I open it and there's a folded card inside. I dump it out, I hand it to the kid, they open it, it's their Pokemon with their signature on it or their name or whatever picture they wanted to draw on it. They get to keep that Pokemon card, and then that's the end of the routine. And so it's just fun, you know. If you guys have not seen my Pokemon routine and you want to, it plays just as well for adults as it does kids. In fact, most of my audiences are made up of people that grew up playing Pokemon because Pokemon is like 30 years old now, right? I think like 95 or 96 is when it came out. So it's like 25. No, it's about 25. I can't do math right now, guys. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. It's like 25-ish years old. So it's been around for a long time. So there's lots of things that you can do with this. You know, just off the top of my head, another example, I grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I really enjoyed playing Yu-Gi-Oh! You can do a gambling demo where you deal out a bunch of hands and then you turn over their hands and all their hands are crap and then you have the winning hand. Well, you can do that same exact gambling demo, but you can deal yourself the 5 pieces of Exodia. Even people that don't know much about Yu-Gi-Oh! Know Exodia is like the big, not Pokemon, sorry, like the big Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster that, you know, wins all of the games. And you can hype that up too. You can say like none was more, like you talk about like, you know, the Blue Eyes White Dragon and the Dark Magician, and you could say none was more powerful than Exodia. And then you go through and you deal out the cards and then you deal yourself Exodia. So like you can do a gambling demo like that. Another perfect example was I love performing a book test. I performed Josh Zanman's book test. I have performed Josh Zanman's book test since Gatsby came out. And it's just a great book test. And I've never done any book tests before that. And I found Josh's and fell in love with it. It's a great book test. But there was a little piece of me that was saying, you know, like I love this book test. I love the methods in there. I love the idea of reading people's minds using these novels, but like I've never read any of these books. Like I've read like a Sherlock Holmes novel. I read The Great Gatsby like in high school because I had to, because it was required reading, right? But you know, like Scarlet Letter, never read it. Alice in Wonderland, I saw the cartoon, never read the book. Time Machine, though I love like sci-fi kind of stuff, never read it, right? So it's like I have to pretend like, oh yeah, these are my favorite books when I was growing up, and I never even read them. In fact, I don't like reading. Like, give me the Spark Notes or Cliff Notes version of the book so I can do my book report. You know, like I just never liked reading growing up. So it didn't feel right to me to be like talking about how these were my favorite books growing up and stuff, because they really weren't. And then it happened on accident one day. I was moving stuff out of the garage and I found a big box of my stuff. It had like my Nintendo games and like a book of my Pokemon cards, and my manga was in there. Now I had not opened this box since I initially moved out of my parents' house. This was like in 2007, I think. So this box of stuff had been sitting dormant for over 10 years. And it just said Mike's stuff written in Sharpie on the side of the box. So I opened it up and all of my manga and Pokemon and like my Nintendo DS games were in there, like a bunch of stuff. And so I was like, huh, I could probably do some magic with this stuff. Like, wouldn't it be cool to do a book test with this manga? Right? So I came up with some ideas and the result was the manga book test. And my old school Nintendo stuff was in there. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to do some magic tricks with my Nintendo stuff? And so, you know, a good friend of mine, Josh Birch, he said, dude, why don't you do something with Nintendo playing cards? And I was like, that's a thing? He's like, yeah, dude, like the Topps Nintendo playing cards, or like the trading cards that came out like back in like the late 80s, early 90s, that came with like the Bazooka bubble gum. And I was like, I never really collected those. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, dude, this is perfect. So I built a tossed out deck using those Nintendo cards. And the kicker ending was I get, you know, the Nintendo cards. I have spectators in the audience choose a Nintendo game. They memorize the game. And then I try to guess everyone's game. And let's just say like 5 people guessed a game, or 5 people chose a game. I guess 4 out of the 5 correctly. The last one I get wrong, and I ask them what game it was that they were thinking of. They reveal it, and then I tell them inside the Nintendo console is the last game that I played, and I invite them up to go open it and find out which game it is, and it turns out to be the game that they named. So I took a tossed out deck routine that's just, here, choose a card. 6 of you guys choose a card. Everyone stand up. 6 of clubs, 3 of spades, 2 of diamonds, 7 of hearts, 5 of clubs, and king of hearts. And then everyone sits down. And then, yay, I got all of your cards right. You know, you take that and you turn it into something that means something to you. And you create a more engaging performance out of it. Now, everything that I just talked about is super nerdy and super anime, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Nintendo games, nerdy stuff, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be nerdy stuff. Here's another example. Let's just say you are a Bible guy, a follower, you know, a Christian, or you're any kind of religion, right? You can do that exact same tossed out deck thing that I did with the Nintendo game, and instead you can hand out a bunch of index cards that all have Bible verses written on them, and you have the people read a Bible verse and memorize it. And then you go through and you name, you know, like John 3:16, you know, Matthew 2:26, you know, Corinthians 4:13, whatever, like whatever Bible verses they want to choose. And then you get to the last one and you name the Bible verse, and then it's the wrong Bible verse. Like you get it wrong. And then you say, what was the Bible verse that you memorized? And then they tell you. And then you say, that's really interesting because I actually read that Bible verse last night. No, seriously, I actually bookmarked the page. The Bible that's been sitting right here this entire time on the table. Come up, open the Bible at the bookmarked page and tell me which verse is bookmarked on that page. They open it, and then it's that Bible verse. So, you know, that you could do that. Like, it doesn't have to necessarily be like a pop culture thing. It could be like something that really means something to you if you're very religious and you like to inject your religion into your performance. Maybe you're performing for youth group or at your school. Maybe you go to like a religious school, or maybe you perform. Maybe your church service allows you to do a magic trick for everyone to get everyone hyped up before the priest or the pastor comes out. You know, like it's up to you. You can make it special like that. So that is what I like to do in order to come up with ways to connect to my audience through the performance. Does every single trick need to be like that? No. I recommend you guys go watch my Bel Air performance. It's like the most recent videos that I did. A lot of the magic in that video is, you know, it's got some themes on it, but it's not like, you don't have to have story time every single time you do a magic trick. It just doesn't have to be like that. As long as you're connecting with them, and it's, you know, you can use interesting objects. So like the first thing that I do, I say, before I do anything, I have to ask you guys a question. And I reach into my pocket and I pull out a purse frame with no bag. I say, have you seen my purse? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's Gucci. And they laugh and I go, well, I mean, it's missing the Gucci part. And then they laugh and then I say, oh, but look, I keep my little red ball inside there. And I pull out the red sponge ball and I go, that's cashmere. That's nice, right? I let them feel it and stuff. And it's, you know, and then I go on to do a Spongeball routine. It doesn't have to be like, this was my grandfather's purse, and the day he died, you know, it was a sign to me because that purse was sitting up on the shelf, and then I went to reach for I went to go put his urn up on the shelf, and then that purse fell and the bag shattered, and now it's just a purse frame. The bag is broken, but it still works because look, I can reach inside. I can pull out Grandpa's favorite coin. Like, you don't have to do that. I mean, you can, I guess, if you want to, but it doesn't necessarily have to be to that extent. You know, again, as long as you're connecting with your audience and, you know, you guys are all having a good time and all that stuff, it doesn't really matter, right? So, moral of the story is if you want your performances to be engaging and you want them to connect to your audience, number one, your audience can tell if you are enjoying the trick. So if you're just doing standard patter that is lifeless and doesn't connect to anything that you're passionate about or whatever, they won't really care that much outside of, oh wow, you're doing a really cool trick for me. Another thing that you can do, again, is a pop culture reference. For the longest time, I don't really do it anymore because most people don't really care about it anymore, but for the longest time when I was doing my color changing deck routine, I would say, you know, what color does the deck look to you? And I would ask a few different people and most of them would say red. And then I'd say, actually, to me, it kind of looks blue. Like, have you guys ever seen the dress experiment where like the dress looked like goldish, whitish to some people, but to other people it looked like a bluish, blackish, right? Like, to me, this looks more like a bluish color, not a red color. And I'd say, but the power of suggestion is very very powerful. You know, like if I were to convince you guys that this was blue, you would start to see blue instead. And then I did the color changing deck, and then I spread all the cards were blue. That was injecting a pop culture reference into, you know, into the performance. So you can do that too, whatever the big thing is at the moment. Right now, COVID-19 is the big thing. Now, be very careful with what you say because it's very serious and a lot of people have died from COVID. So make sure that you understand that. But like, for example, Raphael, I'm going to butcher your last name, Raphael. I'm so sorry. Macro. He came out with a trick where he has his like mask on and he takes off the mask and then he takes the two ends together and he rubs them together and then they're linked. So it's like a linking mask thing, right? Or you come out, you're wearing your mask and you reach into your pocket and you have a few different masks and you have a spectator choose a mask and then you say, watch this, here, check this out. And then you do the move and you link it and then you can hand it out to them and they can keep it. You can put it like in a little baggie and like spray it with like, like do like the David Stone bit. I don't know if you've seen it, where the card comes out of his mouth and he sprays it with like disinfectant and he puts it inside of the baggie and seals it. You could do something funny like that, right? Like make a kind of funny thing out of it. And that would play really well right now because everyone has to wear a mask, right? Another thing, Michael Steely has, I don't think it's on the market yet, but he's showed it to me and it looks really cool. Where he's wearing his bow tie and he comes out like looking all snappy and stuff, and then he's like, and then the bow tie just changes into a mask and he puts it on his face. And it looks really cool. So like, there's some stuff that you could do with COVID. COVID's really popular right now, right? So moral of the story is you guys have plenty of things to work with. All you have to do is just use your imagination a little bit and you can come up with some really engaging stuff that you guys can go out to share with everyone. In fact, stick around because I'm going to be doing a review of Masquerade, the linking mask routine thing in the next video. So if you guys want to check that out, you're welcome to do so. Yeah, so anyways, that's my story. That's my rant. Go back and watch those other videos because I think you guys will get a lot out of it. Michael O'Brien here. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.